All right, Baptiste, let's get this meeting started. And yes, please share your screen.
Yes. So hello everyone. So this is the weekly meeting for Jenkins Essentials Open Planning. So we're going to discuss the status of the project. So who is present? So Jenkins, so Tyler, Jesse, Oleg. I'm not sure Raul is going to join. So let's just head over statuses. So Tyler, maybe you want to get started?
Yeah, so I made a significant amount of progress last week on the delivery of updates using a stubbed out update manifest. As Baptiste, you and I were discussing a little bit in chat, I've been having some difficulty with the integration tests. But as it stands right now, the two things that are outstanding for that pull request, and that's pull request 70, I mean, the integration tests have to work, obviously, before we merge anything. And then I have one more, I'd say, test case to add, and that is right now the update level is not being stored for anything. And so if you turn the Evergreen client off and bring it back on, it will just re-download everything. So it's not, the client side isn't doing the update level check just yet. That's fairly straightforward, but I can't do that successfully until I get the integration tests actually to cooperate. But it's looking promising.
Yes.
I guess the sort of next thing for the week would be to get some stuff deployed.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Baptiste.
No. That I was just agreeing and saying, yeah, from what I could tell in your PR, indeed, there's probably only left something like because you've already written the war and plugins download. So now we need to say, okay, please supervisor D restart Jenkins, so it should work. And so yeah, it's looking very promising.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm at Microsoft Build most of the week. So I'm going to try to hammer in some changes in between talking to people about Azure and Jenkins and things like that. But what I'm hoping we can start this week is some of the infrastructure planning, and I haven't had a chance to look through your meeting notes on discussing some of the logs with Olivier, which I'm assuming has happened already.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was this morning.
Getting to a place to where we can actually provision evergreen.jenkins.io or start to this week is something really interesting.
Yeah, indeed. So
okay, go ahead, please.
No. Do you want to discuss other things in flight, or are you think is your status done? I don't hear anything if you're talking. For people listening, Tyler was saying that he would be on a not very good connection, so maybe I don't know if it's me or.
I can hear you, Baptiste.
You can hear me, so I guess it's Tyler. So he did send the warning that it would be not a great connection. So yeah, let's just switch to you, Raul, since you joined, and so let's just give your status with regard to Essentials.
Add network. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So not a lot of work for Essentials this week. I've been firefighting on other sites. Regarding the Git plugin, the ATH and PCT, which is already running on prerequisite basis, it's working, but now we have detected some instability on Git plugin runs. So Mark is going to do some changes regarding the parent conversions and things like that. And after that, he has requested me to help in case there are some problems with PCT or ATH, which is something that I'm going to do. I'm very used to deal with ATH or PCT. So that is what I'm going to do probably this week regarding those two, two issues. And after that, I'm going to start with other great work on the custom work packager and improve the flow on Git plugin. The ticket is not yet there, but it's created and is on.
And by the way, I've got approvals to publish my pipeline library sources for custom work packager. So hopefully it will be something like one-liner integration for you.
Yeah, I know that will be great.
If I'm lucky, it will be published today.
Yeah, great.
Cool. Anything else? By the way, the thing about custom work packager is not here. So is this on purpose or another Jira or not Milestone one maybe?
It's not there because it wasn't intended for Milestone 1, but I'm going to add that here.
Okay. Right. Great. Anything else?
Not sorry for being on so many fronts. Sorry for that.
No problem. Thank you. I think I'm gonna ask, even if there's no really something here, but I guess Oleg, you can go on if you have something to say about that.
Well, I do not have specific updates for Essentials, but I have updates for related things like a bill of materials. So one of good news is that we have reference implementation for bill of materials and custom work packager, which supports both inputs and outputs. I have integrated this pull request today, and I will be setting up pipeline tooling so that we can evaluate it in our flows for testing purposes. I've pasted the link to the chat.
Okay. Yeah. And so it relates to the thing, I think, the PR from Carlos in flight right now. Yeah, right.
Right.
Okay, great. And by the way, you or Tyler, I was going to say, JC, do you have any feedback from Carlos? Is he going to finish this PR?
I guess so. I haven't. He's been traveling, so I haven't heard much from him recently. I hope he'll have time to work on that this week. Main status for me is I have a tool in progress which looks for the most recent applicable incremental or other version of a given artifact. And initially I have it set up as a Maven plugin to do a POM update, similar to the versions, to various mojos in the versions Maven plugin. And it sounds like we now have a concrete YAML format from custom work packager that I could use to prototype a similar change in that format as well. So
do you need this model to be decoupled to a separate library, or you're fine with the current state for now?
That's fine. I mean, it's just all I would be doing is changing the version attribute, I suppose. So I just need a working, concrete example of a file to patch, basically.
And I think since last week, for people possibly watching now or later, Jesse, you're kind of talking what you did like Friday or something, but you did a lot since last Monday, I think, with regard to incrementals and checking, and so now it's kind of working and more merged in the core and so on.
Yes, it is in core. So any core pull request you file, it should be deployed automatically if all goes well.
Yeah, by the way, the new flow broke the repository after the weekly on Sunday, but
I already filed a fix for that already.
I already merged it.
Yeah, so that's great because for outsiders, I would say, you would see that indeed now even the core is deployed automatically for each PR that gets merged. So that's great, and that just works for Everything, not only the Jenkins war, it works now already for some plugins, the ones who have been configured to check those things. So that's great.
Yeah, once Jesse finishes his tool, I will be setting up a prototype for Jenkins Docker image, which will be picking the last version of Jenkins core and maybe some components like remoting, so that we will have a boilerplate Docker image.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be useful at some point to set up incremental builds for remoting. Also, I haven't tried it yet, but
I have created a task for remoting and stapler. So for remoting itself, it's going to be a problem now because pull request builder is broken, so that you cannot really rely on correct publishing. And for stapler, I think we can do that, but yeah, I haven't got to it yet.
yeah, mainly the main issue with stapler is we need to copy and paste a bunch of stuff because it's not using a Jenkins POM.
Well, let's make it using Jenkins POM.
Yeah, potentially.
Actually, I've thought that I've modified stapler to use Jenkins POM.
About that,
right now.
Maybe it's slightly off, getting off topic for today. But didn't we have some tasks somewhere about at some point moving stapler under the Jenkins org, or is this not even a subject?
Yeah, there is a task to do that somewhere.
Okay,
make this kind of thing a little bit easier. But.
Okay, yeah. I guess anyway we are going slightly off track, so let's try to, or if you think something is really related to essentials, you can obviously talk about this, but I think this
would just affect the ease of doing things like pushing small changes from remoting or stapler into Evergreen production without having to do a full release and so on.
I guess it makes more sense, by the way, for remoting than for stapler, or maybe not, because, well, because I mean, it's included anyway in the core, so it needs a PR in the core to be picked, right?
Not exactly, if you use custom work package or whatever. But
right. But for deployment Evergreen, yes, there would be a matching core PR to pick up that version. Yeah. But the point is that if we used incremental versions for remoting and stapler repositories, and we had them being built properly, then it would be easy to do that, with and get that going live in a matter of hours without having to
instead of having some waiting to wait for someone to release a version of stapler.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, we can do it even without incremental releases if you are fine with the fact that it goes from master branch.
Okay.
So I have a demo which does that, but yeah, it's kind of risky.
My point is that, well, makes a lot of sense, but I'm not absolutely sure this is the most urgent thing to do. But at the same time, it kind of tests the incremental story as a whole. But yeah, I think it could be postponed to milestone 2 or 3, because anyway, we would need to find something like a PR in the core, and that part we would really deploy. So yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone. Let's. Yeah.
Quick comment now. You talk about incrementals. Just would like to ask, what do you think about putting the ATH itself under incrementals? I mean, at this moment, we are using a concrete commit on the metadata files to run in ATH, and that commit has to be updated regularly. So I think it makes sense to use the incremental system to publish.
I'm not sure, because right now, do we really run a given version of? It's not like we use a release of ATH. We use the master branch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. We use
So it's not really
of ATH. It's not a Maven artifact.
Yeah. So does it really? Do we really need that, Raul? Because by that I mean we already run the latest tip of ATH, don't we?
We have the possibility to run master of ATH, yeah. But that is something that we have previously discussed. It's not ideal because you are not having a deterministic commit and that kind of thing. So
yes, but I mean, you would point to some SHA, right? anyway, if we use incrementals, you would have to use PR to update the SHA to some other value. So I'm not absolutely sure in that very case, incrementals offers a very big difference for ATH by itself. What you
No,
would like,
we can't use it for ATH because again, we don't pick up a Maven artifact for
yeah,
ATH.
what maybe you would
That's
like
true.
to do, Raul, for ATH is automatically maybe file a PR on the core or something like this to test when there is a new commit. When we detect that the SHA being pointed to for the version of ATH on the core, there's some new version of some new SHA for the latest tip of ATH, then file automatically a PR to test if ATH is as stable as before, and then bump that version so that everything uses the latest of ATH.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
So
That
you
that
want continuous delivery for it.
sorry.
So you want continuous delivery for tooling.
Yeah, I guess you would like
Yeah.
to make use of the latest as recent as possible version of ATH constantly, I guess.
Yeah, in practice, acceptance tests pretty frequently break for kind of silly reasons, like somebody makes a slight change to the format of a config.jelly in some plugin, and then the selector doesn't match anymore. And so if you look through ATH history, we have a lot of places where it's doing like this long if-then switch where it's trying to deal with 2 or 3 different
versions
variants of the same config file, the same config screen, which is hard to maintain. So it'd be nice to just be able to say, this is the version of the test that I'm using. This is the version of the plugin that I'm testing.
Mm-hmm.
If you change the plugin format, well, okay, you can make a change to the test too, and you can pick those both up in one commit. So you don't have to have these, untested combinations of new ATH with old plugin or vice versa, like we have today, like we have, for example, for testing LTS versions.
Mm-hmm.
My main concern here is that imagine Git plugin making some changes on the user interface that is going to break the ATH for the rest of plugins. So typically in this flow, the maintainer of Git plugin is going to also commit the changes to the ATH to fix the test. And we need a way to make those fixes accessible for the rest of the people running the ATH. I don't see a good solution. Just
Can you possibly, Raul, file Jira summarizing the rationale, your concerns, and everything, so that we can all understand it and dig into it possibly, and maybe have a better understanding of, and possibly the possible solutions you would have in mind, and so on, so that we can work on this and decide if it needs to be fixed like next week or next year.
yeah, makes sense.
Right. So we have a bit more than 10 minutes left. Don't think I gave my own status, so I'm going to do that pretty quickly. So last week, main thing was to basically work on the whole error telemetry story. So now the JEP for the client side was merged a bit before. I've been writing some Node.js code, and now we have the full story running, I would say, as a prototype. So we have Jenkins that is writing logs in JSON format as per the JEP 304, I think, on the disk, and then the Evergreen client is reading those and pushing those into the backend of Evergreen. So the backend that will in the future be deployed behind something like evergreen.jenkins.io or something. And now I'm writing the JEP for actually gathering feedback and so on, because I've already a prototype for this, but what will the API for pushing those logs look like for real. And I'm almost hopefully done. I was writing that a bit earlier. So I hope to be able to submit that today, later, hopefully. And I'm out tomorrow, so I would like to try and, and submit that for feedback for today to save some latency. Is there any question about those things in general? Answer. Let me see. And also, with regard to what Tyler was saying a bit earlier about the infrastructure, the Jenkins infrastructure and running thing, exactly. So Tyler is asking me for exactly the thing I was going to say, so that's great. We are in sync. This morning I met Olivier Verlin, so one guy, the guy that is working with essentially Tyler on the Jenkins infrastructure, and so we had a talk dedicated to how now there's the services available and the setup available to handle the logging for services running in the Kubernetes cluster, because for people not knowing about that, so now the Jenkins infrastructure is, I'm not sure how much, but mostly running in a global Kubernetes cluster, running in Azure. So this is very, very likely that we will, and we want to run the services for Evergreen, for Essentials, in that cluster. So that's why we were discussing how those things are set up right now, so that we don't do things in a bad way. So for people interested, as always, as we are following the 4 opens, we have docs meetings, and so I put a small summary here about what we discussed this morning. And basically, I think it's likely to be that the backend service that will receive the log then will push those in Fluentd, that is already an existing component in the Kubernetes infrastructure for Jenkins. And so then we will have those logs probably push in the Azure log, how is it called? Let me see, Azure log analytics, probably at least in the short term. But from an Essentials client, I would say client perspective, I guess it's not a big deal, because the most urgent thing, I would say, is more to design how the endpoint will look like, so that the instance around the world can push the logs. And then if we change things behind, then it shouldn't have any impact. So that's why it's kind of more urgent, so that we can actually have actual Essentials instances running, and then possibly finish or adjust or change things in the back. I hope it's slightly clear, at least. I guess we are mostly done. Everybody gave his status. Anything else by everyone before we close? Tyler? I guess you're in crappy. Wait. So I guess Tyler has nothing more to say. Jesse, Oleg, Raul? Great. So see you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.